Hello everyone and welcome to video 4 of our 4-part video series for training. Today's video we're going to discuss how to add an assessment to your train course and how to clone assessments for future courses. As you can see, I am on the course edit wizard on train and I've gone through the first steps and we are now to the assessment tab. And this is going to be a lot like when you add an evaluation. It's kind of that same format, except you're just adding test questions versus evaluation questions. This is not a requirement for a train course, but we do strongly urge, especially if you do online courses, to add an assessment. Just that way you can make sure that the participant has gained knowledge of the material and understands the material as well. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is let's copy this title. That way we have it for when we build this assessment. And then you're going to go to Manage Assessments. And from here, you'll see a list of all the assessments that have been built on Train. But for this video, we're actually going to go down here to Alright, and for assessment name, you can paste in that title. You can also edit the title if you want. It is not going to be the same as the course, but I do, again, like the evaluation, I suggest you do keep that course ID in there because it is the easiest way to find an assessment when you want to go back and clone it or change it or anything like that. Alright, there are two types of assessment results. You could do a points-based results, in which, say you have 10 questions, each worth 10 points out of 100, and you have to get a minimum of 80% to pass. That's your points-based results type of assessment. You can do a pass or fail as well, to where they have to get so many of those right in order to pass. You don't have to worry about points. We usually use those points-based results. I think 90% of our courses, that's what they go by. Minimum passing score, that's up to you. You're going to want to go ahead and have your assessment questions ready and at hand so you know how many you have, because you'll want to take that number and then divide it by 100 to kind of get that total of how many points you will need to get your minimum pass. So again, if you have 10 questions, you want them to at least get 7 right, then your minimum passing score will be 70 points. Little math involved on this one. Okay, delivery question type. There's 3 different orders, or 4 different selections. You could do a defined sequence where it's going to ask question 1, question 2, question 3, all in order. It's going to ask that every single time to every participant. You can do a random order where it'll ask question 1 to question 6, then question 9. You could do random questions out of however many are so say you've entered 20 questions, but you only want them to be asked 10 randomly. You can do that, or you can do the same thing, but you can say question 2, 5, and 9 are mandatory, and every participant has to ask that. Up to you. We suggest kind of doing a random questions where you'll put in 20 or 30 questions, and only 15 of those will be asked randomly. And the reason for that is, if you're going to have a module or an online event out there and it's going to be out there for a few years, you don't want every participant to get those answers and then share it with other people. So it kind of leaves it up for a toss on what questions they're going to get. For this one, we are going to do random order because we're not going to add a lot of questions. Okay. Don't worry about your start date. Don't worry about your end date. Time limit, that's up to you. I don't think I've ever assigned a time limit. I would keep that blank, just because if the participant, for some reason, if they are in the middle of the rounds or if they had to go see a patient or anything like that, you don't want that to exit out. Attempts allowed, we suggest doing 3, and it will give the participant 3 times to take the assessment. If they do not pass on that 3rd time, they will have to be withdrawn by the course provider in order to take that course again. All right. You don't have to worry about this 2 radio tabs here. This one's already checked. Leave it checked. And then down here, the assessment window properties, just check full screen and centered. Okay. Introductory, you're good here. You don't have to worry about any of that. Same thing with your final page. Assign, don't worry about visibility. Again, you're just going to scroll down here and select Kentucky. Okay, and then questions. Again, this is the same thing as the evaluation. You're going to add your questions, but it is going to let you know that your assessment window will be saved before you add those. And then give us some time to refresh. Okay, and this is where you're going to add all your questions. We suggest sticking to your multiple choice, check all that apply, true or false, or yes or no. Those are the easiest for them to kind of go through. You don't want to do an essay because you'll have to go back in and grade that. So we'll start off by doing a true or false. Select that, click next. This is where the math comes into play on this assessment. So you are going to want to have those questions kind of already filled out, so that way you know how many you're going to be asking and what the point is. You're always going to want to do it out of 100. So for this one, we'll add 4 questions. So each question will be worth 25 points. Okay, and then here you can either copy or paste in your question, or you can type it in. I'm just going to make up some questions right now. Okay, so you'll type in your question, and then down here you'll see correct answer. You're going to want to make sure that you either select true or false, whichever is the correct answer to your question, and then click save. It's going to ask you if you want to activate the question. Click next or yes. Okay, and then you'll add another one. We'll add a multiple choice. Okay, again, you'll want to put in that question score. Don't forget to put that. Okay, okay. So you have your question in here. And then you're going to go up here to choice items just like you do on the evaluation, and you're going to add the different choices you have. Okay, you'll type it in, click save, and then you'll add your next one. And once you add the choice that is correct, make sure you go right down here and select that this choice is the correct answer. And you'll see it'll bring up the little check box. Okay, and then we'll add, and then save. Okay, and then once you have your choice items in, click save down here. Again, it's going to ask you to activate the question. It will ask that with each one. Okay, add another one. We'll do a yes or no. Okay, and again, instead of doing true or false, just go down here and make sure that you select the correct answer. And then again, don't forget to type in your score for the question. All right, we'll add one. Okay. And this is going to be just like your evaluation Likert skills. Type in the score, and then okay, rating settings. Again, you'll do whatever your lowest point value is and whatever your text is. Okay. Save. Okay, So we have now added all of our questions, and you can see up here, so your minimum passing score is 70 and your available score is 100. Make sure that that is always 100. That's one thing that you do want to keep in mind. So if you're adding, 15 questions, you're going to see what 15 divided by 100 is. So that way you can score each question accordingly to equal up to 100 at the end. Once you have your questions in, you've done your visibility, you've done everything else, you can come down here and click Save. Okay, and it's going to tell you that your assessment is not active. It's going to ask you if you want to activate it. Click Next. Hit Save. All right, and again, it's not going to pop up immediately. We're going to have to do some searching for it. So the easiest way to go about this is I would go to Create a Date. And it's going to pull the oldest assessment that was built. Click on that again, and it's going to pull the most recent, which is the one that we just created. You can also, of course, search it by that course ID number as well. So if you remember your course ID, you could type it in, search it that way. This is just easier, I think, to find it. Once you see it, click on that Assign button. Again, this is just like the evaluations. So whatever credit types you've had selected in the course, it's going to pull those up. Go ahead and check all. This is a post-assessment. Again, you can add a pre-assessment if you would like. Most of the time, people only add post-assessments, but it's completely up to the course provider. Also, make sure that it's marked as auto-verify. You can allow the user to do an open book, and that allows the course, if it is an online module, they can launch the online module while taking the test. That's up to you. And then select that availability. And then click Save. All right, as you see, it's pulled it up, so you're good to go. If for some reason you need to make any changes, you can click on this middle icon. That'll pull up your edit assessment page if you want to change any questions or anything like that. Okay, so that is how to build an assessment from scratch. Now, if you do have an assessment, you're putting on this course again 2 months down the road, and you want to clone this assessment, let me delete these real quick. All right, so you get here, you're going to go to your Manage Assessments. And you're going to make sure you have that course ID for the assessment that you want to clone. You'll type it in up here in this search box. And then select Search. And as you can see, it'll pull it up. You're going to select this middle icon just like you do on evaluations to clone it. All right, and then here, edit your title to reflect that it is a new assessment, so we'll do 2. If you have a new course ID, make sure that you put that in there. And then once you do that, go ahead and hit Save before changing any of the questions or anything else. That way Train will generate another assessment, and it's not going to change the assessment from what you're cloning. Go ahead and activate it. Okay, and then here's the one that we just cloned, and then we'll go ahead and assign this. Same thing, check those, post assessment, check Kentucky for the availability, and then hit Save. Okay, and then from here, you could go ahead and if you want to make any changes or adding any questions, whichever you want to do, here's your thing. Everything stays the same. Here's your 70 points for minimum passing score, random order, your visibility stays as Kentucky, and your questions are all right there. Again, if you're going to add or delete questions, make sure that you change the score on all of your questions so the maximum available score stays at 100. So if I were to add the 5th question, I'm going to have to go back and change all of these to 20 points instead of 25. Once you're done making any edits that you need to, you go down here and hit Save. And then it produces it. It's a lot easier once you do cloning. I suggest that you do, like the evaluation, you kind of create a template And then that way you can pull from that template for the assessments. It takes a lot of time for one, but if you can create that at the beginning, it's going to save you a lot of time down the road. So that is all of the information for an assessment build, and this is the end of our 4-video series. Hopefully this will be very helpful for everyone. And again, if you do have any questions on building a course, finding a course, anything like that, please let us know. Don't be afraid to call EWD. They're always there. You can email us, whatever is easiest for you to get hold of us. But I hope that this will be very beneficial for you all. Thank you very much.